Today, we're going to be diving into the subject of hemp and what it can mean for your health. I have with me today Inesa Ponomariovaite. She is the founder and CEO of Nesa's Hemp, a pioneering force in the CBD-A, remember that because we're going to come back to that in a bit, hemp industry. Inesa has revolutionized the field by introducing the world's first full spectrum product certified by the FDA, registered laboratories. She is a holistic health expert and visionary. Her remarkable journey includes a personal triumph that has touched the lives of many, including her mother who suffered with cancer. And through her unique process, she preserves the healing compounds present in hemp, enabling your body to return to its natural state and promoting optimal health and holistic healing. Inessa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
This is a subject I don't know a lot about, so I'm excited to dive into it. And before we kind of get into your story, because you really have a fascinating story, there is an American secret concerning some of the CBD products and some of the best selling products. And this astounded me. Can you talk about what that is, what's happening, and what we can do about it, what consumers can do about it?
It's definitely my favorite topic, and I know it doesn't bring us any funds or financial gains from educating people, but does make me super happy to speak the truth. And that's all what I want to do is speak the truth. So it's a really good question because the industry is completely misguided. In fact, most consumers even have no idea what's in these products, what's really should be done. They asking wrong questions, and there's deeper agenda behind the scenes which just it start coming out in the light as we see pharmaceutical companies. Food and Drug Administration is actually pulling the CBD companies and saying, "Hey, you're selling my drug, which is CBD is a drug since it's not natural compound." And most people think they're just consuming this natural, healthy. But the real compound that cannot be patented, cannot be owned by anyone except us people. It's actually never been talked about, and it's very suppressed information. So I'm very happy to speak about this.
Now, at the beginning of the intro, I mentioned CBDA. What is the difference between CBDA and CBD? Because I didn't know this at all.
The political differences, CBDA, it's something that actually appears to be in a mother nature, and it's in the plant. If you, let's say, take the plant from the soil, if you're gonna study the chemistry from the plant, as the plant is in the soil, there is no CBD. It's only CBDA and THCA and the compounds that doesn't make you high. And if you take CBD, in order to get the CBD, you actually what you need to do, you actually use chemical processes, heating, extractions, solvents, and things like that, and you turn that natural, God's given, not patentable compound into the CBD, which is officially CBD is a drug and belongs to Food and Drug Administration as of today. So all the science and everything has been done on this drug, which is CBD, and the CBDA is not something you're gonna learn about. I mean, it's more and more starts coming out, but I think I knew and understood the difference long time ago. So I that's why I started as the first company in the United States to focus on this and push the topic because CBDA is known 1,000 times stronger, more effective. It's not going to give you side effects, harm like most people do actually complain about CBD products. A lot of consumers in the CBD industry is disappointed for multiple reasons because there's no regulations. And as I said, the pharmaceutical companies had a plan, which is they allowed us to kind of learn about CBD and the benefits, potential benefits. and then it allowed all these businesses to market these products for these people. And now that enough people know about this, they start pulling them out and say, hey, you sell our compound, it's a drug, it belongs to us. So I know this year's actually Food and Drug Administration and companies start pulling and saying, stop selling our compound, which is a drug.
Wow, I really didn't know that. I knew there was such an explosion over really the last, I'm going to say 6 years or so, where it's just gotten more and more, and there's just gummies everywhere, and it's all over the market. And you mentioned that it's manufactured, which I didn't realize because people think, okay, I'm taking in this natural substance, but they're putting these solvents. So what exactly is going into what people are taking right now?
It's very scary question, but as I said, that's why I love to educate, because I spent my whole life to investigate this. I spent all my money, my savings, everything to know the truth. As a holistic health coach, someone who saves lives, I need to know what's in these products. That means I can't trust someone's just marketing materials. So I had to walk in these facilities, farms, manufacturers, laboratories myself physically, and do my own due diligence and ask them to show me things instead to tell me things. Most people would never have time to even make a phone call and to ask more questions, because they just would trust your website marketing materials and you would be good to go, and that's it. No, in my world, it doesn't work this way. And at this point, as I said, investigated deeply. So what's really going on with these products? I mean, sadly, we need to understand a couple of very important things. Number one, hemp itself is actually essential to you. Like, we can't, our bodies can live without. But when we say hemp, we need to always actually have a full definition of which hemp are we talking about, because most people also aware of there's cannabis, but also nobody tells you that cannabis in the mother nature, the very high levels of THC never existed. That's also completely re-engineered compound, and
Oh.
genetics never ever existed in the mother nature. And I studied the chemistry, and I looked into the history, what we had, what kind of hemp we had 100 years ago, what kind of hemp we had 1,000 years ago, and do my world research. Even in some cases, I had to hire translators because I couldn't speak with these people in the same language. So I had to go very deep to understand there was no such thing as cannabis. That's 100% another pharmaceutical agenda. Say, hey, this is good for you, this is Mother Nature, but they forgot to tell us very important things, such as we re-engineered this. It's never came from the
Mm.
nature. It's completely a man-made plant that never ever came from the nature. There, in the real plant, which is hemp plant, there is no THC. There's THCA, very low levels. It's not gonna actually numb your brain. It's not gonna cause you any kind of psychoactive activities, and you will be safe. And again, why we not promoting these? Because I believe there's deeper agendas behind the scenes. So we need to really distinguish and understand the difference. Hemp is the only one thing we should be focusing on, and cannabis is not even. It's not even a real thing. It's re-engineered, and what I have to say here is, since there is no regulations and the plant is extremely essential to us itself, what happening is every CBD company and industry is doing whatever they want. So these bottles are actually loaded with not Nesa's hemp, but I'm talking in general. I mean,
Mm.
our products, we're super proud what we have, but the industry bottles or majority of CBD brands on the market are loaded with deadly substances such as aspergillosis, cancer-causing pathogens, chemicals such as mold, all kinds of type of microtoxins loaded with actually metals. And I'm gonna give you something else here, that hemp is very precious plant. I believe that's the only one plant can transform the nature, transform the humanity for better, transform the pharmaceutical industry, transform all the health system. But the problem is nobody wants to talk what's right and what's not right. In order to grow hemp in the very medicinal properties, you have to grow very carefully, because by the nature, hemp is also a soul cleaner. So that means if you grow hemp for medicinal purposes, you gotta grow that hemp extremely carefully. So you must have very clean soil, very clean air, very clean water. If you don't, that little hemp is like a sponge, is gonna grab every possible toxin from far away and is gonna suck in. Now, when you harvest for medicinal purposes, that plant is loaded with toxins. It's like a sponge for toxins. So again, if you grow for medicinal, it's great. By the way, if you want to use for soil cleaner, it's probably the best thing you can use is the hemp. It's gonna clean your soil like it's no tomorrow, and you're gonna have a pure soil. But if you use these plants for medicinal purposes, that means the soil itself needs to be extremely clean, because it's extra ultra sensitive for the toxicity. So it's very
Wow.
hard to do it. And in order to do that, you have to take extra mile and years of developing the soil, of creating a right environment for the plant in order to be in medicinal purposes use. And companies don't want to do that. It takes lots of pain and struggles, just the one we had to go through, and it's not easy.
Oh, and lots of money too, probably to make sure that everything is going correctly. This is really fascinating. It's good information. I did not know this. I did not know that about the cannabis, because we tend to think of that as completely natural. And the hemp being a sponge for all of these toxins is that's like, wow, that's a kind of a mic drop moment. I did not know that. You've got all this education, this information, you have the successful company. How did you get here? Your story, because I was reading, a bit of your bio on your website. I was like, wow, everything you went through. Can you share a bit of that with the listeners?
Yeah, the story is extremely long and complicated, so I'll try to make it short as short as
Okay.
possible. But I want people to understand that my struggles is also coming, my passion, I would say, it's coming from struggles. I wasn't just sitting here and shining. I really had to go through a lot of battles myself. And one of those battles was my health, and my mom did not know any better. So she, in very young age, I was medicated, such as antibiotics, steroids, you name it, UTI infections, kidney problems, and I that's how I lived in Lithuania. As I said, my mother did not know better, so I'm not blaming anyone here. I'm just saying that she took me to the doctors, and doctors didn't know any better,
Hmm.
so they put me on medications. So I stayed on the pills for probably over 10 good years. And when I came to United States, I actually went through a lot of challenges. And those challenges were such as, I was targeted by human traffickers, and I was in pretty
Goodness.
abusive relationship. And so long story short is everybody who wasn't lazy wanted to take advantage of me. And I came from this, I was judging others from my own perspective. So I figured, people are just nice and kind, and I live in the best country in the world. And it wasn't the case, because I came from a little town, from a little country, and I didn't know any better. I was raised on different values. So that got me actually, instead becoming a victim, I just became very strong woman, I would say. It wasn't easy. I had to fight all of it by myself. Yes, people came in my life and helped me along the way, and detectives and police officers and things like that. But in the meanwhile, I had to end of the day go home and to empower myself with my own pain instead become a victim. So, and of course, my health, it went all the way to the bottom because of the stress I was going through. I was already not super healthy in the first place. So that led me to emergency room. Every 2 weeks, I would be like, like they're just natural appearances. She shows up, Inesa is here. So with that being said, I start looking back and I said, what I'm doing wrong? Like I am on these doctors. I'm in the best country in the world with the best medical system, with the best education, and I'm like, I am not getting better. In fact, I'm getting worse, and I'm taking more pills, more medication. So how it's come I'm getting worse? Just it's just 2 plus 2 never made sense for me. It's just why I'm here, why I'm still here. So I start changing lifestyle, talking around, looking around, and that led me to quite a beautiful transformation eventually, not immediately, of course, but it got to the point where I was able to become extremely healthy, never been sick again. I've been just absolutely, I would say, the worst customer for pharmaceutical industry, because I don't need their pills, I don't need their their treatments, because I'm just healthy. And what happened, so that kind of planted a seed. That was like, okay, I trust Mother Nature, I trust God's plant medicine, I trust changing the lifestyle. So that planted the seed, but wasn't enough or say I'm gonna change the world. But what really was happening when I got that phone call after years, finally putting my life together and living, I would say, American dream, which was, it wasn't American dream for me, because it looked like on piece of paper that I had a good life, because everything looked great, great job, great career, building other business on the side, and then like beautiful, young, finally healthy. All the past is in the past, and I'm like, is this is it? Like nice apartment, nice car. It's like, this is it. This is American dream. It's like, I'm not satisfied with this. Like, and it's something was missing in my heart. Like, I wasn't feeling good about my life. I wasn't feeling I'm fulfilling my purpose. And I was just asking God, the same God that I asked him strength, long time ago, for the struggles I was going through. I said, please help me to figure out what's my purpose in life. And of course, I got a phone call from Lithuania a year later after asking God what's my purpose in life. And that phone call was magical, because my mom was crying from tears in sadness, and I was actually in
Oh,
tears from happiness, because I saw the vision and I saw like how God wants me to change the world through my mother's cancer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I truly saw my life that I live right now 6 7 years ago. And I just went completely wild. I told my mom, I said, you're gonna be perfectly fine. In fact, the world is gonna benefit, and the world's gonna be in a better place because of your cancer. And she knows I'm not on drugs, she knows I'm not on medications, she knows there's nothing mentally wrong with me. So she had to FaceTime me, because it was early morning in the United States. She's like, are you sleeping, talking, walking? What are you doing? Like, I am dying in 6 months. It's like, no, you're not.
oh,
I said, you're going to be perfectly amazing. I said, you don't understand. So sometimes we still laugh from this day. Like, when I talk to my mom and she's having like a sad day or something years later, which is now. And I said, look, you remember that day? I said, you just trying to remind her to be grateful for what she has right now. But yeah, I spent tens of thousands of hours on the cancer research and traveled the world, been anywhere you can possibly imagine. And I rejected the chemo because I knew that I don't trust the medical system because of what happened to me, and I wanted to try all the natural ways. So I'm not gonna lie, in the beginning I really didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I say God blessed me. And after 27,000 hours, eventually I kind of figured out exactly what I'm doing and how things really work. And yes, I helped my mom, and I helped thousands of other people to improve their health and feel better in multiple other ways. And all of them are doing great today. So that's a positive thing. So when you're that in that field, and when you're helping to save lives, when you care about person, you must know that there's a world that doesn't care about you, and all what they care just profit from you. And I was very aware of that world myself because of my own experiences again. And I wanted to make sure that people come to me, that to help them, I wanted to make sure that they don't experience that world. So I was trying to create a wall between the clients and sick, ill people, make sure they don't buy things that are marketed nicely. So, and I understood the essentials from hemp, I also know about the Bible and speaks about this, and history speaks about this. And we talk about the essentials of hemp and how our bodies can't even function without, because we produce those cannabinoids ourselves in our own body. We just start losing them as we get older, or in my world, when you're exposed to toxins, parasites, and many other things, you start losing your system, and that system is no longer producing what's essential to you. So that's why you need to empower your body with these cannabinoids so you can run yourself again. And I knew the difference, and I knew essentials, and I knew the industry is not regulated. So that's how I started investigating the industry. And because I knew that I have to represent some kind of type of brand or the company, or I needed a good product. I needed for myself and everybody I work with. And then I investigated the industry, and more questions I asked, more questions I had, I realized things are really bad, but then I also realized essentials of the hemp. And it got to the point where I went deep and I discovered what I discovered, and I said, this is can be true if I'm going crazy, or the world is going crazy. But you would think how the whole world can go crazy. So I was really blaming myself that I'm going crazy. This is can be true that everybody's doing wrong. Like somebody has to be out there who's trying to do right. So I didn't trust myself, so I decided to contact the number one professors in the world in cannabis industry, and I said, of course, it wasn't easy to get him on a call. It took me quite a challenge. I didn't take no for an answer, and I told him, I said, when I finally got them on a call, and I said, this is what I discovered in this industry. I discovered about the drug. I discovered what's in the plants. I discovered what's in the bottles. I discovered how lab reports are completely faked, and none of those lab reports representing exactly what's in these bottles. And I said, are you aware of this, or this is just me going crazy? And top world leaders that I was talking to from Harvard and Israel actually agreed with me that I'm not going crazy. So that kind of made me feel good. And I'm like, okay, so you guys are aware of the issue is, and he said, yes, we are. That's one of the actual professors from Harvard. And he says, I'm leaving this industry because of everything what you just mentioned. I cannot be part of it. I mean, these companies wants to pay me so much money to misrepresent and misguide people. And so long story short is I discovered what I discovered. I got confirmed that I'm not going crazy, and I just said, okay, oh well, I guess I have to do what's right and come up with solutions. And that's how I started studying the plant's history and soil, and figured out what it takes and what we had 2000 years ago, what we have now, finding the resources and people across the world that actually their generations left certain books or science behind. So as I said, it wouldn't be like original person because somebody passed away years ago. So I would need to talk to their grandchildren that took the legacy on the can industry of hemp. They call it cannabis. So I'm still always mixing those two because the industry itself is called cannabis, but I always focus on the hemp because cannabis is just
Right.
is a thing. So yeah, that's how I started. I wasn't planning to have this company. I wasn't planning at all, and I said, God, please don't push me to do this. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested to start my brand. I please, I said no, and I didn't get an answer to say you can quit. I was just told you have to keep going, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna follow what you say. And it's been a struggle, I'm not gonna lie, because you're really going against everybody out there.
Yes. I can relate to that so much. When I went into helping women in menopause, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, you do feel like you're going against the grain in so many ways, especially when you start talking about what's happening with the food industry, what's happening with pharmaceuticals, how the two combine and collide, and how this affected the clients that I was working with. You do feel like you're pushing against the grain and you're going against the status quo. But I love that so much. And I love that you went through this terrible, terrible being abused, being these individuals taking advantage of you, the trauma really, And rather than sinking into that, which some people would do, and allowing that to like ruin their life, you took back control of your life and took it on a different trajectory, which most of my listeners are women and women over 50, and I know they resonate with that because a lot of them share pasts that were traumatic that they've had to overcome. So thank you for sharing that because that's a vulnerable thing to share. I love that you took it in a different direction. Now, I want to focus a bit on the products you produce with the hemp. And now I'm making an assumption here. Are there different products that do different things? Like this one's for sleep, and this one's for, I don't know, recovery from sports. Are there differences here, or is it all one product?
If I wanted to just focus on money and to make myself extra wealthy and abuse people wallets and their lives, I can say yes. But I'm gonna explain you the difference again, and I'm here to speak nothing but the truth. That's the promises I made
Hmm.
to some higher sources out there. And I'll explain how the really cannabis or hemp works. So, first of all, you have your entire body producing these kind of cannabinoids in your system. These cannabinoids or this endocannabinoid system is essential to regulate your ovaries, your spleen, your gut, your central nervous system. I'm sure you know how crucial it is to regulate central nervous system. You can do regulations of central nervous system in 5 minutes after you take that's literally 5 minutes it takes to regulate entire central nervous system. So what happens is, you see, I can go and say, oh, this is a product for your spleen, this is a product for your
Right.
liver, this is a product for your gut, and this is a product for your skin. By the way, I use it to get rid of my wrinkles. So I can literally go and remarket and in multiple different directions and put a different label. Now instead you buying one product that does it all, you're gonna purchase 3 4 products and spend more money, and actually you don't need to. You really don't. All what you need, you have a full chemistry from the plant in the finished bottle, and all what it does goes in your body and fills and finds every single imbalance in your body, and is gonna feel like a puzzle,
Okay.
like a missing piece specifically for you, because each person is different. That's why some people say, Nasa, it helped my hair grow, it helped my vision, it helped my gut, because I might not have vision problems, but someone does. So that's what I said, is all hundreds and hundreds of health benefits in one bottle. Can I market them differently and label them differently and separate those compounds? Yes, I can. I'll make more money, but that's going to be not good for you. Like, it's going to harm you in the long term, because separation of chemistry is it's almost like creating a baby in a lab. It needs to be attached to the mother's womb, right? It needs to be go just the way nature created things to be. You can't just go and re-engineer nature, God, science, or children or whatever. Like, at this point I really believe only in the God science, because if we're so smart today, how come we still can't figure out how human immunity works, why human immunity is the most intelligent thing in our bodies? And I don't know one single scientist or researcher who can come to clear answer and show us today how God and the universe created our bodies so intelligently that we can't figure out. We're still trying to figure out. We're trying to play smart here, but we're really not that smart. We're trying to catch up. But at the end of the day, I believe whatever the science was created by Mother Nature is the science we need to follow and try instead to re-engineer. So yes, there is a product, and we also releasing a very powerful cancer product ourselves, but it's not going to be just a one thing. There's additional compounds, and when you put the chemistry together with those additional compounds, additional God's given mother nature compounds, that's where it triggers the cancer cells even more. So again, it will have multiple SKUs eventually, and we're working on it, but they're not going to be labeled like most companies. They label same almost product, same compound, they just separate. For example, and I'll give you a real example. If you take the full plant, you should have in the plant's chemistry such thing as CBN, CBG, CBA, all those CBF. So all those compounds is just like having liver or having vision or having kidney. It's just like a different organ in a plant, right? So it's the same thing here. So CBN is the one's gonna put you sleep. So
Right.
why I wanna go separate CBN and put and say this is your sleep formula while I already have it all together? It's just, it's again, it's all about business. It's never been, this industry has always been about business. That's why it drove me crazy. And that's why I was asking God not to, please, I don't want to start this, but I had to, because there's not single one company is willing to do what's right. Because it does take a lot of time, effort, money, and years to get where you can finally sell. So,
No, I can see that. And it's interesting, you hit on that marketing because I've always been suspicious of that because I'll
mm,
see a CBD product and I'll say, well, this one will make you go to sleep. This one will give you energy. This you do during your workout. And I've always been suspicious of that. And I often will say, follow the money when you see people making an industry making a lot of money. And I'm not opposed to people making a profit in a heart-centered, honest way that's in their own integrity. I'm completely in favor of that. But when people are being hurt or they're spending needless amounts of money, you see it right now with a bit in the functional medicine world where it's like, let's run thousands of dollars of testing that people don't need. Same kind of premise, getting people to spend more or come out with a bag of supplements that high that's not
mhm.
necessary. So I love that you have such a heart-centered business and you see the need and you see where people have been taken advantage of and you're serving the community in that way. I think it's so important.
I have to, because when I was going through struggles, I promised myself and God that one day I'll be a strong, powerful woman and I'll come back to bring a justice for everything what I experienced myself and others are going through the same struggle. So we definitely a brand that is on the mission, and that's why I said when you're honest, when you open, you have nothing to hide. You're gonna share your lab reports. You're gonna show that each bottle is fully tested in the parts per billion, not per parts per million. It's another thing what people really getting tricked that drives me crazy. And I see people say, "Oh, it's a lab tested." Even some CBD producers, even some CBD actually companies, or some salespeople, I talk to them and they just truly are misguided. For example, say my product is lab tested in Nesa. I said, really? Tested from what? It's almost saying, I tested you from, I lab tested you. From what? From AIDS, from herpes, from high blood pressure? What you tested me from? So when they say lab tested, do not get hooked on that word, because in my definition, lab tested is when you take a final product, each bottle that goes on the market, and you test in parts per billion. That means you're gonna zoom your microscope so close and so tiny to figure out every single particle what's in this bottle from every single harmful thing that there is in the mother nature, such as metals, microtoxins, bacteria. All these molds are going out there right now. We have moldy products everywhere. And I don't know, people actually dying on cancer right now. Most people are actually dying on mold, and they've been diagnosed as cancer. So where this mold is coming from? We all moldy right now, and I'm not joking. It's crazy how moldy we are walking. So of course these products are loaded with these things, and people say, "Oh, my product was lab tested." Lab tested from what? Did you even see the reports? You saw probably reports from 2 years ago. The product was sold probably 2 years ago to somebody that's, you're not even holding that the same quality anymore. You must have a lab reports attached to each bottle that you hold in your hand, pages and pages and pages, just the way we do it. That's the only one way to do it, to prove you that the you bottle that you hold in your hand, it has to have very specific number attached to that lab report. And also you have to make sure that your lab reports coming from the laboratories such as ACS laboratories, because you know how the labs work. And that was another traumatic event for me. I actually called few labs, not few, this is before I understood how bad things are. So I called the laboratory and I asked them, I said, can you please tell me, I said, how much is your cost, what do you guys do, full panels, I want full panel. And they said, just tell us how you want your numbers to be. I'm like, on the report. It's like, what?
Whoa.
And I didn't know
Wow.
thing even existed. And I'm like, what if there's
Wow.
laboratories thinking this way? And I started calling laboratories across America. I said, listen, I have a brand. I said, and I didn't even say anything. I started literally setting them up for the failure. And I said, I want my numbers to be. And I just wanted to see if that's even a real thing. And you will be surprised. No, they said, just give us a couple $100. We will adjust the numbers the way they should be. That's it. That means
That's
if your product
crazy.
is, yeah, that's what I said. It's every single step from the seed to the soil to regulations to the bottle to actual laboratories is absolutely not 100% but 90%, I would say, is absolutely misleading, misguiding, and it's all about the money. So that's why it drives me crazy, and that's why I do the podcast, to educate people, because financially I truly gain absolutely nothing, but I'm hopefully educating 10, 20, 30 people at a time. Um, so you guys know, because this is zero gain for me right now, except you guys spread the message, you make your friends and everybody to be aware of it, because this plant is essential to us. If we had our endocannabinoid system being empowered from the young age, this whole country would be off the pills right now.
Wow, this has been so eye-opening what you've shared, and especially like around the lab testing, I had no idea. And you see that on not just the CBD products or other hemp products, but you see it also with supplements. And the tendency is to go, oh wow, okay, this is safe to take, this is good to take. I like that you hit on the mold. That's a huge problem right now. I've seen it in women that have been my clients that have come to me for health coaching, that various things they've been exposed to, that mold exposure, and how sick that can make people over time, and how difficult that is to diagnose. You have to go down every rabbit hole to finally realize what the problem is. You hit on so many good topics, Inessa. I
Mhm.
really want to be respectful of your time. I know you have like a hard stop today and a super busy schedule, but as we begin to wrap up, first of all, is there anything that we didn't discuss? And I know this is a big topic that you want the listener to know. And how can listeners get in touch with you, try your products?
Yeah, I think the best is really to reach out to us on nesashemp.com, Nesas. We do have a great customer support. So, nesashemp.com is the best way to reach out to us. Social media, but again, I think going back to Nesas Hemp, it would be the best way. So, and the main thing I would like to say, I don't want to sound negative, but as I said, I'm truly speaking this from bottom of my heart, that be aware, be alert, don't be afraid, just ask questions and question everything. Even question me. I want you to question me. I want you to ask questions. I want you to come to me. So, with that being said, uh, you should never trust anybody out there. And I'm saying from bottom of my heart, because I felt it, I experienced it's painful. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to be labeled as you sick. You don't have to live none of those life that is full of fear, life full of control. So you have to understand this, question things, work with the people that are willing to help you, show you where the truth is, and you'll be fine. So I don't want to sound also this podcast as a negative thing, because it is not negative. It's more, I'm trying to empower you with knowledge and say, hey, don't go there, you're gonna get hurt. Just instead getting hurt yourself, and just listen what I say, question me why, right? Because I want you to question everything, but then be careful. That's it. That's all what it is. Just being careful.
So good. I say that a lot to the listeners, to my clients. I tell women, even when you're with a coach or you're with a nutritionist or a fitness trainer, question. And if they're not willing to answer those questions, or they're not willing to change their perspective, because I over the years have changed my perspective on things as I get educated, as I learn more. It's okay to go, you know what? I used to think this, but now I think this. And I tell the ladies, if someone's not willing to answer those questions, or adjust their thinking and their attitude based on new scientific information. Find somebody different. Don't go with somebody that's just stuck there. So I really like that you brought that up. It's an important thing on this podcast, because we talk about so many things. Like I said, everything from the pharmaceuticals to the quality of food, what's happening in our current Western society, and people do need to be aware. So thank you for bringing awareness today, and we'll make sure everything's in the show notes. Thank you so much, Inesa.
Thank you so much for having me here today, and I'm glad that I could bring some value to your audience.
And to our listeners, wherever you are in the world, we wish you every blessing. Bye for now.